what's up, it's your boy Rawk, and I am so lonely. I need friends ASAP and pronto. I mean, come on, do I look like the kind of person who would play Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival alone? Do I? I've tried everything to make friends. I even went to the worst place I could ever possibly imagine. Twitter. And even that didn't fucking work. You know what? That might have something to do with it. Oh ho ho, Pikmin. This underappreciated gem released on the Nintendo GameCube on June 14th, 2002 here in the UK, and was one of the most unique games on the console in my honest opinion. This game started life as a project centering around two characters, named Adam and Eve. The game was set in a prehistoric playground, where players would simply observe Adam and Eve and, as Mr. Miyamoto put it, players could pretend to be God, influencing what the pair get up to, like loving or fighting. The two could create a nest and children, only the necessities of course, and they could eventually make a village and increase the number of controllable characters, which could then be used to fight prehistoric creatures like mammoths. And as any game like this would be, it was canned. That's where we bring in Mario. Super Mario 64 happened. You want a sequel? No! Super Mario 128 was a sequel to Super Mario 64, but if you can do maths, then you got that. There's a lot to talk about with this release, the most notable thing being how it didn't. It was just a tech demo, but the technology behind the project was reworked into a whole bunch of games. But for now we're just focusing on Pikmin. You don't say. I could definitely talk more in depth about this tech demo at a later date, but for now, what the f else would I focus on? Super Mario 128 saw, you guessed it, 128 Marios running around on the screen. Quick, no thinking, guess where this tech was reused? Wii Sports Bowling! Pikmin was later revealed at E3 2001 and received near universal praise when it released about a year later. But that's irrelevant because the only opinion that matters to me is mine. So let's pop in and play the original Pikmin. Now I'm going to be playing the GameCube original here, but let it be known that this game did also release on the Wii, and I'll finally play this version when I learn the error of my ways. I mean, look at this. There's Pikmin on the spine of the box. The Wii version can't say that. We open up in space, and we're greeted to a spaceship being piloted by the one, the only, Captain Olimar. And it's not long before we see his defining character trait. Fucking everything up. Luckily for us, there's a planet directly beneath us to break our fall, and hopefully cause not death. Is that lucky though? We come crashing down into the impact site, and this is where it fully sets in. Oh my god, this game is so lovely. The peppy yet inquisitive music that graces your ears the second you land, Captain Olimar's constant commentary that is genuinely interesting and downright funny at times, and the gorgeous scenery surrounding us immediately set the tone for the adventure we're about to embark on. It's truly an absolute delight. This game released for the GameCube in 2002, and yet it still looks better than Pokemon Sword and Shield most of the time, and it plays better than Sonic Forces all of the time. 2 for the price of 1, bitches! Olimar awakens and discovers his ship in ruins. He determines that the planet's atmosphere contains poisonous oxygen, and his life support systems can sustain him for only 30 days. He deduces that the many parts of his ship are strewn about the planet, and with a solid time limit and motivation established, we set off on our journey. And immediately stumble across a beanbag that shoots arrows into the ground. Just a normal Wednesday. Olimar names this thing an onion because, I don't know, it makes him cry? And if we pull this veggie out of the ground, we are introduced to the Pikmin. F***, there's Pikmin in this game?! Their name stems from the fact that they look like Olimar's favourite brand of carrots. This guy must be really hungry and we've only been stranded for a few minutes. In a word, he's fucked. We build up our army by sending these pellets back to the onion, and we find the first part of the ship. But tell me, how the hell are we gonna get it back to the ship? By reviving slavery, of course. It is my hidden talent. The namesake of the game over here are what differentiate the gameplay of this series from any other. Pikmin is a real-time strategy game. We control an army of Pikmin, manipulating them to our will. We do this by throwing them at any and everything, and they will carry it back to either the ship or the onion. If you throw them at an enemy, they'll attack them, but you have to be careful. Given how tiny the Pikmin are, they are very vulnerable to being fucking slaughtered. You can have a maximum of 100 Pikmin in your squad at all times, but this can be both a blessing and a curse. You see, with more Pikmin comes more power. Enemies go down faster and they can carry things much more efficiently. But more Pikmin also makes you more susceptible to having massive amounts of your army eaten in one fell swoop. There are actually many ways to lose your Pikmin, such as drowning, burning, outright slaughter, and leaving them behind at the end of the day. The game works on a day-night system. The days last 13 minutes, and this is where all of the strategy of Pikmin lies. The main goal is to get as much done as you can in any single day. All of the areas have multiple ship parts scattered among them, and it is more than possible to nab multiple in one day. Time management plays a massive role in this, and is the key to success in Pikmin. which is why I'm not too great at Pikmin. At the end of the day, you need to make sure you have all of your Pikmin either in your army or in their onions. If there are any Pikmin left behind, well, guess what's on the menu for the local beasts tonight? If a lot of Pikmin are lost, I tend to restart the day, but if only a couple of Pikmin die, it's usually fine. I am a monster. There's no way of explaining this without sounding like a sociopath, and I have accepted that reality. Anyway, when we take the engine back to the ship, we are able to fly above the planet for the night, and we discover a new location. Olimar keeps log entries every single night, and these things are a blast to read. They really help flesh out Olimar's character, which is incredibly interesting in a game that, at a surface level, doesn't seem like a game that would have much wiggle room for that sort of character development. And I absolutely love it. I may never return home to my family. Family? What kind of family are we talking about here? Are we talking parents? Siblings? Are we talking a wife? Kids? A husband? Does he live with his grandparents? Is he adopted? Does he have aunties? Uncles? Cousins? I just really need to know the logistics of this. On day 2, we head out to the Forest of Hope, and oh my god, this music is pure bliss. Spoiler alert, Pikmin has a stellar soundtrack, but if you ask me, this is hands down the best song in the entire game. It's just so atmospheric and peaceful, it fills me with so much happiness, and really fits the area it's found in. Here in the Forest of Hope we can find 8 ship parts, and we can also find a brand new species of Pikmin! Wait, but they're literally just the same creature in different colours. They're considered to be a new species? Actually, one of them has ears. Okay, thanks. The main thing that differentiates the yellows from the reds is that they can carry bomb rocks, which can be used to break stone walls, and also killing the f*** out of everything! I personally don't tend to use the bomb rocks in battle, because it's much more beneficial to save them for when you find a bombable wall. But hey, to each their own, right? Wrong. The yellow Pikmin have a separate onion, and if the majority of Pikmin carrying an enemy or pellet back to the onions are yellow, then yellow Pikmin will sprout, and if it's red, then I'm not going to insult your intelligence. And if there's equal numbers of both colours, then the game basically tells your strategy to go f*** itself. The ship parts found in each level are another way that this game brings a lot of strategy, and it'll differentiate every single playthrough of the game. Not only are some of them not even mandatory, but in a lot of cases, it's very possible to obtain more than one in a day. You really have to evaluate whether you want to get all of the ship parts in an area before moving on to the next, figuring out if you even have the capabilities to do that right away, whether you want to go for all 30 parts or only the mandatory 25. It's a really interesting system that really forces you to manage your time well, and rethink your strategy constantly to ensure that you're being the most efficient that you possibly can. Here in the Forest of Hope we have the Eternal Fuel Dynamo, which is mandatory and is literally 2 batteries wired together. Because how the f*** would we survive without this? The Whimsical Radar, which is mandatory and actually serves a gameplay purpose. It allows you to see the locations of other ship parts on the map, as well as your Pikmin. Hooray! The Extraordinary Bolt, which is mandatory and is simply described by Olimar as extraordinary. I'll take 500! The Nova Blaster, which is optional. The marketing brochure claims that it is powerful enough to destroy literal stars. You know, I don't think I'm gonna waste my time picking this one up. I should be fine. Really dodged a bullet there! The Shock Absorber, which is mandatory and makes the flights taken by the dolphin much smoother. This is bullshit! The Radiation Canopy. It's a helmet for Olimar's helmet. But what if his helmet doesn't have a helmet? The Geiger Counter, which is mandatory and is so vital to the ship's operation that Olimar doesn't know what the f*** it does. And finally, the Sagittarius, which is mandatory and was a gift given to Olimar by his son. Wait a minute. Oh my god, he f***s. This guy f***s. Breaking news! Captain Olimar from the Pikmin series has probably f***ed more than you. Also there's a tsunami, but this is not the f***ing time! You hear that? The world's gone to shit. After collecting any 5 ship parts, our ship is able to access a new area. The Forest Navel. The Forest Navel is dark, it's dingy, and its music is funny as f***. I don't know why, but this music has always been so funny to me. It's just so out of place compared to the rest of the music. Like, let's find the odd one out. This area houses 9 ship parts, and it also houses fucking fine, it's a new species. The blue Pikmin are the only ones with mouths, and that obviously gives them the ability to survive in water because what the fuck else would a mouth be for? The handy and dandy radars are going off the fucking charts because a whole hell of a lot of the map here in the navel consists of water. That's the only thing that differentiates the blue Pikmin from the rest, which immediately makes them more useful than the stupid fucking yellow Pikmin. The layout of this area is really interesting and very unique compared to the others. It places a lot of emphasis on verticality, which is a really interesting concept, especially when all of the Pikmin are different in terms of how high they can be thrown. The focus on height and depth adds an extra element to the gameplay, which is admittedly subtle, but really fascinating and incredibly enjoyable to play through. Having 3 types of Pikmin in different areas that utilize all of their unique characteristics also leads to some really fun gameplay sections. The ship parts found here in the navel are as follows. The number 1 Ionium jet is a mandatory part with a fucking brilliant name, and is a jet that helps propel the ship through space. No. The gravity jumper, which is mandatory, and is a spring that helps the ship reach the speed of light. So that's his secret. The automatic gear, which is mandatory and simply makes piloting the ship easier. Yep, keep telling yourself that. The space float, which is optional and is the most unique part in the game in terms of how you get it. You get it from this bastard, the bread bug. It has a master's degree in stealing your shit, and if it manages to get a hold of an item, you have to throw enough Pikmin at it that they can carry it back to the onion. The bread bug will hold on for dear life, but when the Pikmin reach the onion, the bread bug gets diagnosed with a severe case of the bonks. The anti-dioxin filter, which is mandatory, and is a filter that totally doesn't pollute the atmosphere. Totally. The Libra, which is mandatory and was a gift given to Olimar by his daughter. Wait a minute. This guy fucked twice! Twice! The analog computer, which is mandatory and works with the ship's regular computer to make it smarter. And gives it emotional complexity because fuck you, you need that. The Omega Stabilizer, which is mandatory because Olimar thinks it looks cool. And finally, the Guard Satellite, which is mandatory and helps Olimar sleep at night. I really think Olimar needs to learn a certain definition. After collecting any 12 ship parts, we're able to fly to the distant spring. This is the final standard area in the game, and in all honesty, I'm incredibly conflicted on this area. Unlike the other areas in the game, a lot of the sections here feel very unnatural and video gamey. This area here is the best example. It just feels so manufactured and really doesn't fit in with the rest of the game's levels. But at the same time, the more naturalistic areas are some of the most gorgeous in the game. The overflow of water and the smaller segmented sections of land work in tandem incredibly well, and the music, while fairly subtle compared to the other areas' music, is incredibly serene and is genuinely beautiful on the ears. This is the biggest area in the game by a landslide, and is home to 10 ship parts, being the repair type bolt, which is mandatory and can supposedly fix anything on the ship. So couldn't it just fix the ship and let us f*** off early? The massage machine, which is optional. And would you believe me if I told you it allows Olimar to massage himself? You gotta be shitting me! The interstellar radio, which is mandatory and allows Olimar to counteract the loneliness of space by sending out an SOS signal. Man, I'm feeling really deprived of human interaction today. Help me! Yep, that'll do it. The gluon drive, which is mandatory and uses quark binding metaphysical gluons, which is totally a concept that I understand. Bullshit. Yeah. The UV lamp, which is optional and is pretty much only used for Olimar's suntan. The Zirconium rotor, which is mandatory and is something that Olimar paid way too much for. The pilot seat, which is mandatory and is nothing more than a padded cushion and is clearly the most vital part in the game. The bowsprit, which is mandatory and was designed by Olimar himself, and he never fucking lets you forget that fact. The Kronos reactor, which is mandatory and can literally warp the space-time continuum and turn it into energy. How and why is this buffoon trusted with something so powerful when he can't even do his goddamn job? And finally, the number 2 Ionium jet, which is mandatory and is the long-awaited sequel to the number 1 Ionium jet. God, this area can be a bitch and a half to complete, and I almost entirely attribute that to the enemies here. The puffy blowhog is a goddamn arsehole who blows your Pikmin into anything but safety. The yellow Wollywog is just a more aggressive version of the regular Wollywog, and if you weren't aware, the Wollywogs are Satan incarnate, which is all sorts of fucking bullshit! And there's a secret boss in this area. Oh joy. Yeah, you wouldn't assume Pikmin would have boss fights considering the overall structure of the game. But hey, this is coming from the same guy who assumed Sonic Forces wouldn't be bad, so f me, I guess. There are a few bosses throughout the other areas, but most are fairly uneventful. A couple of them have ship parts inside of them, but with the exception of the beady longlegs, this is the only one that is incredibly difficult to defeat. The Smoky Prog is the boss in question, and this thing is creepy. Its model looks unfinished, and it can also kill your Pikmin by the hundreds if you aren't careful. You can encounter this boss in a certain area of the distant spring before day 15, and it's one of 3 optional secret bosses. The other 2 are in the impact site, and well, f*** me, we missed a part anyways! The second part found in the impact site is the positron generator, which is mandatory and is used to heat up Olimar's instant space noodles. How dare we forget this thing? The bosses here consist of the Gulix, which can't kill blue Pikmin and is therefore a breeze, and the Mamuta, which can't kill any Pikmin, haha! When we have all 29 parts, we unlock the final trial, and this is one of the most interesting parts of the entire game. We have to complete this puzzle, and after doing so, we are met by the Emperor Bulblax, the final boss of Pikmin, and one of the biggest enemies in the entire game. This fight isn't really the most deep thing out there. You just make him eat a bomb and then beat the shit out of it! After defeating this giant honking bastard, he spits out the final ship part, the secret safe. We did this for a fucking piggy bank! You know what? Fair enough. The credits roll to an incredibly beautiful piece of music, and this is where we learn that Pikmin does my favourite thing in all of gaming, multiple endings, which of course means f*** you, I'm not beating the game 2 more times. You get the good ending if you collect all 30 ship parts. Olimar makes his way back home, and the Pikmin are finally able to fend for themselves in the nighttime. You get the normal ending if you get all 25 mandatory parts, but not the full 30, and Olimar just fucks off and leaves the Pikmin confused and alone. What a dick. And finally, you get the bad ending if you don't even manage to get the mandatory parts, and Olimar attempts to leave the planet in the same way he did in the normal ending, and well, the Pikmin rescue Olimar from his crash, and they take him to an onion, where he is turned into a seed and planted into the ground. I refuse to accept any reality where this isn't how the game ends. This is absolutely amazing. Wait, those cutscenes were playing in the Wii version, and they were in widescreen. It. I guess I'll give it a go. Well, I certainly have some thoughts, and they're all bullshit! I am not a fan of the Wii version of Pikmin, which is probably my most controversial opinion since, Super Mario 64 is my least favourite game in the series. Yeah, that. Presentation-wise, this game is incredible. Seeing the original Pikmin in widescreen and in a slightly higher resolution really hits home how good this game looks, especially considering it was originally a GameCube game. None of the assets were updated, they were simply ran in 16:9, and the slightly higher resolution really only comes from the fact that I'm playing it on a Wii U. It's the sound and gameplay that I have a problem with though. Remember in earlier Wii games when the Wii remote would scream at you? Mario! Here we go! Yeah, let's talk about that. A lot of sounds in this game come exclusively from the Wii remote in this version, and considering these Wii remotes are almost 15 years old, this doesn't sound great. Some of the sounds are absolutely disgusting coming through the controller. It's so loud and crackly and just sounds appalling in pretty much all cases. The worst offender by far is when you try to throw a Pikmin without any in your squad. Fuck me, this is atrocious! How could my Wii remote sound this bad? Do it! How? And the gameplay. It's not for me. I know many people vastly prefer the Wii controls compared to the GameCube, which naturally comes from the pointer controls. I am not one of those people. I don't know. I could never get it to properly respond to my movements, and even when the pointer did respond, it just never felt great. It just felt stilted and awkward for me, and I don't think I could ever get used to it, which is such a shame because this is the version I want to play, but it's just not meant to be. Pikmin is one of the most unique games that Nintendo has ever released. It is the shining gem of the GameCube library, and easily solidified itself as a big, important IP for Nintendo's future consoles. The game is truly like no other. It's incredibly compelling and enjoyable to play, and the strict time limit and wealth of interesting mechanics at play make this game infinitely replayable in my opinion. There will always be a way for you to refine your strategy. Each and every time you play it, you will be better. And I can't really see this game ever getting boring for me. I genuinely love this game, and I will cherish it for years to come. Pikmin's core formula had so much potential beyond what the first game delivered, so much so that Nintendo pumped out a sequel only 2 years later. And after the groundwork laid by this game, there was nowhere to go but up from here. Or all the way down. Yeah, guess that works too. Alright, I think it's finally time for me to play Pikmin 2. I waited long enough, but the original game was an absolute delight, so I'm excited to see what the sequel has in store. Weird. What the hell's all that noise? Huh. Somebody really pissed those guys off. Oh, f***, that somebody was me! Hey, what's up? It's your boy Rawk, and don't mind me, I'm just seeking refuge in this random-ass cave. It's great. Yeah, apparently I upset some members of the Pikmin community with something I said about Pikmin 2. But I haven't even played Pikmin 2. I was about to, before harassment kicked down my door. I don't get why everybody's so upset with me. And the worst part is, all this cave has is this random-ass piece of paper. I would read it, but I don't want to be rude to whoever lived here before me. F*** it, I'm so bored. Let's do this! Oh, for the love of God, how could I? I don't even have a way of playing the game right now. Oh, never mind, this cave has a Wii. You sadistic sons of bitches, I didn't want to play the Wii version! So turns out this cave does have more than just this piece of paper. It also has spiders. Are you guys friendly or am I in danger?
What do you do if your son is a commercial failure but did well critically? Have another 3 years later! Pikmin 2, released for the Nintendo GameCube on April 29th, 2004, and was a follow-up to the GameCube launch title. That original game was an absolute treat, and most people who played it agreed. The game received fairly high scores across the board, and has cultivated a dedicated community of fans. This game sold less than Ratatouille the video game. Pikmin was a fairly niche title. After Miyamoto revealed at E3 2001 that he got the idea of the game from gardening, the world did not take notice. Also, there was quite a bit of competition around the time of its release. Not only did the GameCube have Luigi's Mansion, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Smash Bros. Melee, just to name a few, but newcomer Microsoft's Xbox also had its killer title, Halo. And there was also third-party games like Final Fantasy X and Grand Theft Auto 3. Stacked up against all of these titles, Pikmin didn't really stand a chance. But Pikmin was Miyamoto's baby. Sure, he created Mario and Zelda, but those franchises were no longer overseen by him at this point. He was usually still a producer on most titles, but on the whole, those series ended up being helmed by other people at Nintendo, most notably Eiji Aonuma for The Legend of Zelda. But Pikmin, on the other hand, was helmed by Mr. Miyamoto. He was the franchise lead, and even if the first game didn't do too well commercially, it seemed that the game meant far too much to him to just give up on it. So, wanna know what he did?
I thought he became an alcoholic.
This game is up there in terms of how many copies I own of it. Naturally, I own both the original GameCube release and the Wii re-release. No surprise there. But I bought my GameCube copy on eBay, and
yeah, it didn't work.
So I bought a second GameCube copy that did work. But I don't even get to play that version because I'm in this dumb cave. Life stinks! Pikmin 2 picks up right where the first game ended, which is honestly weird to say with a Nintendo game. Even when games are direct follow-ups, they still seem to completely disregard the story of the previous entry. See? Super Mario Galaxy 2. But hey, Pikmin 2 bucks the trend. And we start off with Olimar returning to Hocotate after our adventures on PNF 404, only to find out that the company he works for, Hocotate Freight, is going under. They're completely bankrupt, and looking at their workforce, it's easy to see why. But fear not, because Olimar is here, with a bottle cap that he wanted to give to his son.
Right. Yeah, I forgot this guy had f***ed.
Turns out, though, this bottle cap is worth 100 Pokos, the national currency of Hocotate. And we find this out because this here traffic cone sucks it up without even asking Olimar. Because damn it, his job is more important than his kid.
Work-life balance is for pussies.
The president over here decides that despite the fact that Olimar returned home mere minutes ago, and has not seen any of his loved ones yet, he must return to PNF 404 to see if there are any more valuable treasures that can be used to repay the company's debt.
What did I tell ya?
If it makes you feel better, Olimar, you won't be alone on this journey. You'll be stuck with this dolt. So Olimar takes off with his new sidekick Louie, and on their descent to the planet, Olimar f***s everything up. I'll give him this, he's consistent. The two captains are separated, and this is where we get into the gameplay of Pikmin 2. Now, Pikmin 2, brace yourselves, plays exactly like the first game, but with a few key differences. The main difference being this guy. You control both of the captains here, and switch between them at a moment's notice. Which, honest to God, as small of a change as this seems, it completely changes the way you approach this game. It takes multitasking to the next level. And considering the original Pikmin already excelled at encouraging and rewarding multitasking, that's a pretty big deal. It can be so satisfying to be off doing one task with Olimar, and then switch to Louie to accomplish something else on the other side of the map. It really helps to streamline a lot of processes in the game, and allows for an even greater level of strategy refinement than even the original. Of course, this element of gameplay is only beneficial if you know how to use it. You gotta know how to distribute your group of Pikmin between the two captains, and know which captain needs which Pikmin. It can be a difficult thing to utilize to its fullest potential, but when you finally get the hang of it, it's an incredible feeling. Speaking of the Pikmin, we have two new types in this game. The first new type are purple Pikmin, which are extremely heavy, which can be both a detriment and an advantage. Their weight makes them incredibly effective in combat. Chuck them at an enemy's head and watch them be flattened. And their weight also makes them incredibly strong apparently, as when carrying items, one purple Pikmin is the equivalent of 10 other Pikmin. As a trade-off, these guys are painfully slow, so while using them to carry items may seem like a better idea, as you'll need less of them, they're so slow that in some cases, it can be more beneficial to simply use more Pikmin to grab an item. And the second new type is the white Pikmin, who have the exact opposite strengths and weaknesses as the purple. They're incredibly light, meaning they're stupid fast, but that also means they're pretty bog standard in combat. Unless, of course, you want to sacrifice their bodies, as these guys are poisonous, meaning if an enemy eats them, they're donezo. White Pikmin can also find things that are hidden underground, which I assume has to do with their piercing red eyes. Handsome isn't necessarily a word I'd use for them, but I don't want to piss one of these guys off. The red, blue, and yellow Pikmin return from the first game, and function almost identically to how they did there, except for the fact that yellow Pikmin are no longer the only ones who can carry bomb rocks, which makes a lot more sense. The yellow Pikmin are also immune to a new hazard in this game, electricity. The elemental hazards play a much bigger role in this game, as all hazards have a corresponding Pikmin that is best equipped to deal with them, with the one exception of the purple Pikmin, who don't have any elemental advantages. Naturally, red Pikmin are still immune to fire, making them effective against the random ass plumes of flames that you'll come across every now and then. Blue Pikmin can't drown, white Pikmin can handle this poisonous powder, and the yellow Pikmin are immune to electricity, which is pretty nice, especially considering it insta-kills every other Pikmin type.
I better have an internet connection in this cave because I need to send Nintendo a strongly worded email.
Look, fine, okay. It makes sense for electricity to insta-kill Pikmin, but when it's the only hazard in the game that does that, it kinda starts to feel a little bit super fucking stupid. It kinda removes a lot of the strategy that the other hazards bring to the table, as they'll usually be accompanied by a non-elemental enemy. So you deal with, say, a fire hazard with your reds, and then have the rest of your squad take down the enemy. But with an insta-kill hazard, you have to make sure that the yellow Pikmin are the only ones on the scene, and by the time the hazard is taken care of, you then have to go back and retrieve the rest of your squad. It doesn't sound like a huge deal, but in execution, it doesn't feel great. There are also two power-ups in this game, the sprays that you can get from collecting enough red and purple berries. The red spray makes your Pikmin freakishly strong, and the purple one can turn enemies to stone briefly. These are both incredibly useful, and the fact that they're somewhat limited makes figuring out the exact right time to use them a blast. On our quest to make dead a thing of the past, we collect a lot of treasures, and pretty much all of them are real-world items, and I love this. Who the hell are you with your blatant product placement? You can't fool me. I have a sense for this kind of stuff, and would you look at that, they did it again! There's just something so charming about the Pikmin discovering a real-world item, especially if it's a brand you're familiar with. And then having the captains try and figure out what it is, having our ship come up with a name for them, god, it's great. It also helps give a much clearer perspective on the size of the Pikmin. In the original game, you could kinda get a feel for how effing puny they were, considering the fact that the leaves were huge comparatively, but it more felt like something where every now and then you'd go, Oh yeah, they're tiny. And then just keep playing and forget again. But with this game, constantly having them compared to real-world objects continuously reinforces their complete and utter lack of size. And it's adorable. It takes 20 Pikmin to carry a Duracell battery.
Which means my Wii remote can store 40 Pikmin.
A good amount of these treasures are found on the overworld, which is standard Pikmin affair, but a lot of them aren't. A lot of treasures are found in the one single part of this game that sent shockwaves throughout the Pikmin fandom. The most love it or hate it element of the entire series. The caves.
Does this mean there's a legitimate chance of me being saved by Pikmin?
In all of the game's levels, we can find caves, which take us to completely new environments. Which I very much appreciate, considering the base levels in this game are the exact same ones from the first game. I get it, it's spring now, but the cherry blossom won't distract me from the fact that Awakening Wood is just the Forest of Hope again. The caves can have a lot of visual themes. Standard no-nonsense cave settings, caves with metallic floors, child train sets, above ground, underground areas, because Pikmin 2 does not have a giveable shit about the concept of feasibility. The caves are broken up into a number of sub-levels, and 5 usually tends to be the sweet spot. On the final sub-level of most caves, there's a boss, and these are usually an enemy from the first game, or a variation of them, such as the burrowing Snagret. Almost every floor has at least one treasure for you to track down, as well as a load of enemies for you to take care of. The caves are where you find the flowers that allow you to turn red, blue, or yellow Pikmin into purple and white Pikmin, which can't be grown. Speaking of being unable to grow Pikmin, that's something you can't do when you're in caves. So if you lose Pikmin, when you lose Pikmin, you're straight out of luck, which kind of adds to the thrill of them. Also, time doesn't progress in the caves, meaning that if you enter one right at the beginning of the day, spend 3 hours in there and return to the surface, it'll still be the very beginning of the day. How fun. So, what's my overall take on the caves? They're fine.
Wouldn't recommend living in one though.
At the end of the day, the caves just allow for more of that core Pikmin gameplay, so they can never really be considered a bad thing. But they do take up a bit too much of the playtime in my opinion. The fact that they're randomly generated is cool, and keeps things pretty fresh, but the vast majority of the game takes place in the caves, and it can get kinda tiring. Because of how thorough and careful you need to be, and also given the structure of the caves, spending the majority of the game in them means that Pikmin 2 is a long-ass game. Beating the game normally, which just means paying off all of the debt, can clog in at about 10 hours of gameplay, and going for 100% completion, which means collecting every single treasure, could probably double that. Especially if you've never played the game before, which, hey, guilty as charged. But despite all of its flaws, Pikmin 2 is still an absolutely fantastic game. I mean, it's the follow-up to Pikmin, one of the greatest games on the GameCube. How could it not be? Is it a flawless follow-up? God, no. But is it still a wicked fun adventure that's more than worth giving your time to? 1,000 times yes. If you like the first game, you are guaranteed to have an absolute blast with this one.
Considering all of this game's additions, successes, and failures, it's difficult to say whether or not I prefer this game to the original, but when directly comparing my own experiences with the two games, I think I do. I can totally see how this game's shortcomings could be deal breakers for some people, and to some extent, I'd actually argue that the first game is a more well-rounded experience. But damn it, man, I just enjoy that core Pikmin formula so much, so having a longer, more ambitious game to mess around with it in, it's perfect for me. Given how conflicting opinions can be on this game and how much I ended up enjoying it, I am very interested to see how this game's follow-up, which is universally praised, ends up stacking up against the two games that preceded it. If I ever get to not live in this cave, honest to God, not even this second piece of paper can make me feel any less miserable about being here. Wait a minute. I can go? I don't have to stay here anymore? Oh, finally! Oh, the sunlight! How I've missed you! My lungs, they're filling with fresh air again! I'm free! I
hate it! Hey, what's up? It's your boy Rawk. Summer is here, which means that my body is craving one thing and one thing only. Fruit! The sun does nothing for me. Now, given that my last fruit-based business proposal wasn't as successful as I wanted it to be, I thought it might have been a good idea to satisfy my cravings with a new fruity experiment. What I'm dreaming up is a fruit-based soup, because we all know that the worst part about soup is the soup. So if we grab a banana, a couple of apples, and some grapes, and blend those puppies together, then we should be golden. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, isn't that just a smoothie? Shut up, they're different things. Add a secret ingredient and throw them in the microwave. We're only 2 short minutes away from pure, unfiltered deliciousness. Ugh! It doesn't work. I knew the vinegar was a risky move.
Pikmin 1 and 2 were some of the greatest games the GameCube had to offer. Commercially, sure, they weren't really giving Mario a run for his money, but that core gameplay was so incredibly engaging. Surely there was potential for another sequel. Well, there was. You just had to wait 9 years.
That must have been one bitch of a pregnancy.
Pikmin 3, released on the Nintendo Wii U on July 13th, 2013, and was the triumphant return of everybody's favourite plant-based real-time strategy series. See, ever since the release of Pikmin 2 in 2004, this series has been a little something I like to call infertile. It went the entirety of the Wii generation without so much as a mention of a new game. Now, to be fair, the original 2 games were re-released on the Wii under the new Play Control line, but so was the original Chibi Robo, and even he managed to get new games before Pikmin did. That's how you know a series is fucked. In the background, development of a new Pikmin game was pretty funky, starting as early as 2007 for the Nintendo Wii. The project was confirmed by Shigeru Miyamoto at a developers roundtable in 2008, and basically all that was confirmed about the new game was that there was a new game. 3 years, 1 3DS, and an unhealthy amount of radio silence later, Miyamoto revealed that, yeah, this wasn't gonna be a Wii game anymore. Considering it had been 3 years and this game still wasn't done, it only made sense for it to switch platforms. Games released near the end of a console's life never tend to sell too well anyway, so Nintendo really did this game a favour by not releasing it on the dying Wii, and instead releasing it on the Wii U.
Oh, we really dodged a bullet there.
Upon release, Pikmin 3 was decently well received. As is standard for these games, it didn't sell very well, but considering it was a new entry in a very niche series that had been dormant for almost a decade, releasing on a console that was dead before its launch day, this game was fucked from the get-go! And for a long time, that was all there was to say about this game's development and build up to release. Until Nintendo instilled fear in our hearts. On August 5th, 2020, out of absolutely nowhere, Nintendo dropped a trailer on their social medias for Pikmin 3 Deluxe. Wii U ports were nothing new at this point, what with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, hell, the Switch's headline title, technically speaking, was a Wii U port, being Breath of the Wild. The reveal trailer showed off some of the improvements that this deluxe version of Pikmin 3 had to offer, the most notable of which being nothing. Silly me. All of the changes to this version were detailed on Nintendo's website, because of course this information couldn't be in the reveal trailer, that would be fucking insanity.
With Pikmin 3 Deluxe, every mainline game in the series had received a port. But Pikmin 1 and 2 on Wii didn't really do much to enhance the games outside of giving them Wii remote controls and a 16:9 aspect ratio. For the most part, the Wii and GameCube versions were pretty interchangeable. But with Pikmin 3 and Deluxe, that simply isn't the case. Both versions of this game are very unique in terms of content and control options, so much so that both of these versions are able to stand on their own 2 feet. Some people swear by the Wii remote controls that the Wii U version offers, and after learning to love Pikmin 1 and 2 on the Wii, I totally get that. Some people swear by the Switch version for its portable play. Finally being able to play a proper Pikmin game on the go feels about as good as you'd want it to, so I get this too. And then some people swear by using the Wii U gamepad because my request to strip them of their freedom of speech is still pending. So the question is, Which version am I playing through?
Well, let's look at the pros and cons of each version to come to a conclusion on that. So, technically speaking, the Switch version has more control options. You can play in handheld mode, which is basically the exact same thing as using a Wii U gamepad. You can use a Pro controller, which gives you something closer to the GameCube versions of 1 and 2. Or you can use 2 Joy-Cons and simulate the Wii Remote and Nunchuck. Every way of controlling the Switch version offers motion controls to enhance aiming. But the thing about this is, the motion controls need to be recalibrated on the Switch. A lot! Because of how much they drift. Who would have thought?
The Switch's controllers must be great at Mario Kart considering how much they drift. It says laugh, you pieces of shit!
So the Wii U version probably has better controls, but the Switch version has a lot more quality of life features and new content. The Wii U version runs at 719p, whereas the Switch version runs at 720p. That's a game changer right there. So it's a tough call, but I have to go with the Switch version.
Who knew picking your favourite child would be so difficult?
Pikmin 3 Deluxe opens up with a PSA about the planet of Kopai and how unbelievably fucked it is. These hungry hippos have managed to exhaust their entire planet's food supplies, and after searching all nearby planets, they're only able to find one that might have enough food to save the Kopaites from a very depressing extinction. The planet in question is PNF 404, and after its discovery, 3 explorers are sent to salvage as many resources as possible. Who the hell are you? Yeah, Olimar hails from the planet Hockatate, which means that we're introduced to 3 brand new characters for this adventure. And I gotta say, they're all remarkably good at f***ing everything up.
It's as if Olimar never left.
Our 3 captains are all flung to completely different areas of the planet, and given the circumstances, name me a better time to finally meet them than now. Go ahead, name one. I'll wait, I've got nothing better to do. The first captain we're introduced to is Charlie, who awakens in a snowy tundra. Charlie is the actual captain of the ship, as opposed to these other 2 captains we get to play as. That's not needlessly confusing at all. While trying to find our ship and crew, we stumble into a group of local thugs who are known only as the Summer Squash Scoundrels.
This neighborhood is going to shit.
It wouldn't be a Pikmin game without Pikmin. Just like Mario Kart wouldn't be Mario Kart without the Honey Queen. And the yellow Pikmin are the first ones we encounter this time around, which is how you can tell it's a sequel. We head into a cave with our team of bananas and then Charlie mysteriously dies. Our next captain is Alf. He lands in a jungle and meets up with the red Pikmin. That's a weird shade of yellow. On our adventures through the jungle, we find Nintendo's first true experience in begging us to peer review. How am I supposed to pronounce this, Nintendo? The upper and lowercase p's make it seem like it should be pronounced as cop-pad, but the species are known as the Kopaites. So, surely it would make more sense if it was pronounced as Kopad. I'll go with Copard. We pick up the Copard and there's an incoming signal from our 3rd and final playable character. But who gives a shit? It has a camera! Hell yes! I've never been this close to a vegetable before.
Because if I can't handle soup, I sure as hell can't handle salad.
So we follow the signal to Brittany, somebody who I refuse to give my attention to right now because on our way over there we discover the Rawk Pikmin. Do Nintendo know what yellow is? Introducing the first new Pikmin type in this game. Rawk Pikmin are able to smash glass, which can be found all over the place for no good reason. My favorite things about nature, in order, are sunsets, flowers, and glass barricades. They are the reason I never go outside. These adorable little fucks are also incapable of being crushed due to their density. I wish I could relate. After we reunite with Brittany, we spend a lot of time with just the 2 captains, naturally harkening back to Pikmin 2. And after the crash landing that these goons experienced, all of their resources were either lost or destroyed, leaving them with no food rations and no cosmic drive key, which would allow them to actually leave the planet. Because of this, we not only have to try and save Captain Charlie, but we also have to scavenge for food, which honestly is a really unique twist on the formula. Pikmin has always been about managing resources in a time limit. Pikmin 1 gave you a mere 30 days to gather as many ship parts as possible. Pikmin 2 didn't really have a time limitation, especially with 97% of the game being spent in caves, the other 3% being menus. But here, there is no strict time limit, but 1 food ration is used at the end of every day, meaning that if you don't have enough food, you're donezo. This really incentivizes you to collect all of the fruit you possibly can, even if in most cases, doing so is second secondary to your primary objective. And I think that's a really fun way to add both pressure and motivation to this game. So we make our way through the Garden of Hope some more, fight this glass lizard, which some dead sculptor would be pissed about.
I'm not scared of carving picks, so come at me!
And then we get a signal from another fucking country telling us where Captain Charlie might be. So we head over to the snowy tundra he awoke in, and on our descent... Jesus Christ, guys, this is getting ridiculous. Why haven't your licenses been revoked? So we're separated once again, and each captain has to work to build their own half of a bridge that will allow them to reunite. And I think this is where Pikmin 3's multitasking is truly at its best. Having a mutual goal to work towards while coordinating captains on opposite sides of the map, with very limited interaction between them, is a phenomenal showcase of the strengths this series has when it comes to strategy. New to Pikmin 3, we have the Go Here function, which allows you to move one captain to a particular spot on the map while you control the other, which means that even when a captain isn't actively engaged in a task, they can still be helping you work towards a goal. This feature is absolutely genius, and it makes me look back at Pikmin 2 with disgust. This feature means that you can seamlessly accomplish tasks while the captains are worlds apart, and still do so with a high level of efficiency. And having this bridge be the sole thing you have to worry about during this section allows that to be pushed to its absolute limit in the best way possible. Anyway, we head into a cave, kill this lumpy fuck, and free Captain Charlie, who is... immediately horny.
Look at his face. Does this surprise you?
Now that our three musketeers have reunited, we have our two goals to work towards. We have to find the cosmic drive key and gather as much fruit as possible, which means that we can finally get into the gameplay proper, and holy fuck, this game is pretty. I hope you like geysers, because I'm about to gush. This game is so fucking beautiful! Look at it, man! At all times, you are constantly surrounded by this unadulterated bliss, and it's absolutely mesmerizing. Sure, when you get up close and personal with the individual assets, they aren't gonna blow you away, especially considering a lot of them are left over from this game's time as a Wii game. But the lighting, good fucking Christ, the lighting in this game is absolutely stunning. And the fruit, holy shit. Having real-world objects rendered in Pikmin 2 was charming enough, but look at the sheer amount of detail put into every single piece of fruit. They have hyper-realistic texturing on grapes! They didn't need to do this, and yet they did. And it makes it so that at the end of every single day, I stop and take a minute to marvel at how grotesquely good the fruit looks. And that's all topped off by this animation that the Wii U just refuses to be okay with. They always say you shouldn't give juice to your game consoles, so all the Wii U is doing is returning the favor.
Like the hero it truly is.
All of this takes Pikmin 3 to a breathtaking new level of presentation, and when combined with the refined gameplay and serene score, makes this game feel like nothing but a treat to play. So how does it play?
Have you ever heard of video games?
The biggest difference between Pikmin 3 and its predecessors is the number of captains, which is directly proportional to the number in the title after the word Pikmin. Can't wait for Pikmin 11.
What do you expect from me?
Remember that multitasking and strategy refinement I was talking about? Yeah, imagine that with 3 playable characters. It's orgasmic! Each area here is littered with fruit, so being able to divide your squad of Pikmin between 3 captains who can each tackle tasks independently and simultaneously makes collecting a sufficient number of fruit child's play, providing you get good enough at appropriately dividing your team. I know I've already talked about it, but my god, I cannot understate the importance of the Go Here function. It is legitimately a game changer. I don't think I could have even been half as efficient as I was in this game without it. It's the reason I got 100 blue Pikmin in day 1, and I'm better than you for it, bitch!
You might consider that a weird thing to brag about. I consider it a threat to society.
Yeah, there are 2 more Pikmin types in this game. The blue Pikmin from the first 2 games, and the flying pink Pikmin. My 2 favorite shades of yellow. This means that at any given time, you have 5 different Pikmin types at your disposal, all of which having different strengths and weaknesses. And there are very few instances where only one Pikmin can handle a certain task. There's a body of water between you and a piece of fruit. Yeah, we've all been there. And while you could use blue Pikmin because they're immune to water, you could also use the pink Pikmin because they can fly over the water. Got somewhere high you need to get to? I understand, we're all human at the end of the day. And our primal urge is to use the yellow Pikmin who can be thrown higher. It's in the Bible. But if we choose to disregard religion, we could use the pink Pikmin as they're able to fly to damn near any height they want, within reason.
Disregarding religion is a-okay, but flying over a tree is where you draw the line of reason?
So, we have all of these tools at our disposal to achieve any goal we desire, and the game gently nudges us in the direction of finding the cosmic drive key. And thanks to these data files that are scattered all over the place, it becomes increasingly obvious that Captain Olimar has found it for us. And we just need to find him. Our signals indicate that he's in the belly of this beast. We defeated and yes! We did it! Captain Olimar is finally here! Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch! That was the most painful series of fuck yous I've ever experienced. Not only did Olimar turn out to be Louis, but he also stole all of our food supplies.
That's annoying, but I'm sure we're more than capable of dealing with—
And he stole the ship's rubber ducky.
Oh, that sadistic son of a bitch!
This greedy piece of shit leaves us with, once again, no food rations and no rubber ducky, which means no happiness. He is fucking ruthless. So we track him down, again, and he gives us a signal that actually belongs to Captain Olimar. And to think all it took was repeated kidnapping and theft. Captain Olimar is being held captive in the Forbidden Oak, which is our final area of the game. Now keep in mind, once you finish this area, the game is over. So if you want to get all of the fruit like I did, you might want to hold off on this for a little bit. Is collecting all of the fruit worth it? Are you fucking stupid? All you get is an in-game achievement. So of course it's worth it! Inside of the Forbidden Oak, we find this monstrous blob. And this opens the door for the most unique sequence in the entire series. This thing is invincible, and is a Pikmin killing machine. So instead of fighting it, you just have to run. This thing will constantly chase you down, and you have to forge a path through the inside of the tree in order to escape it. Having this thing chasing you ready to chow down on your entire squad in the blink of an eye adds an immense amount of pressure to the otherwise menial tasks you have to do to get out of here. At face value, none of this stuff is anything new. We've done it all before numerous times throughout the game, and yet, the anxiety that comes from knowing this thing is right behind you at all times adds a huge layer of intensity that is absolutely exhilarating. This part of the game stressed me the out, but it was the good kind of stress that has you at the edge of your seat with excitement. That's right, Pikmin, the game about commanding carrots, made me feel more than most games do. Why, yes, I have issues. Finally escaping the tree leads to a Pikmin massacre that somehow equates to this thing being defeated and Captain Olimar being saved.
It's a group of peas fighting a giant blob. You try and do a better job of explaining what just happened.
And so, with Olimar finally rescued, and the Cosmic Drive Key finally secured, that wraps up Pikmin 3. An absolutely wonderful experience from start to finish. I honestly didn't think it was possible for the Pikmin formula to get much better than it was in 1 or 2. Obviously, it had potential for expansion, and a few issues to work out, but I never expected the core enjoyability of the formula to ever increase. And yet despite this, Pikmin 3 blows the other games out of the water in every sense imaginable. It improves and refines and perfects everything that those other games attempted, and feels like the definitive way to make a Pikmin game. Sure, the game is a little on the easy side compared to the others, but how much do you want to bet that's only because there's less bullshit in this one? This game trims the fat of the others and offers so many more ways to truly make this game your bitch. And as such, it's much more difficult to find this game difficult. But that doesn't make it worse. If anything, it just respects the player more. Pikmin 3 is legitimately one of the greatest games I've ever ever played. I'm so glad Nintendo brought this game over to the Switch, as honestly, without this port, I probably wouldn't be nearly as invested in this series as I am, and I may have even given the Wii U version a miss for another few years. Pikmin 3 makes me feel things that very few other games have made me feel. The beauty and serenity of the world leave me awestruck and in a state of pure zen while I'm playing, which contrasts perfectly against the more intense sequences and the stress that comes with trying to perfectly manage 3 captains and a squad of 100 Pikmin spanning 5 different types. These two feelings the game elicits are in a perfect balance for me, and as such, this game makes me feel nothing but pure joy while I'm playing it. I adore this game so very much, and if this was truly to be the last ever Pikmin game, I'd almost be okay with that. If the mainline series were to end on such a high note, that almost feels like a perfectly bittersweet end to this series.
And that was Pikmin 3. Deluxe! And I know what you're thinking. Rawk, what makes this version so deluxe to begin with? 5 extra minutes of content!
Yeah, as much as I appreciate having Pikmin 3 on the Switch, Nintendo needs to invest in a dictionary because this is the definition of underwhelming. The added quality of life improvements are really nice to have, but the actual bonus content is incredibly lacking. The marketing for this game touted a brand new side story that stars Olimar and Louie before the events of the main game, which sounded awesome! But in execution, it's just a couple of time-limited missions, and a little sprinkling of cutscenes. Enjoyable? Yes, absolutely! Worthy of being a full-price game? Still yes, just doesn't really feel like Deluxe is a very fitting title. But at least they added multiplayer. Finally, me and the boys can play the vegetable game, it's about damn time.
Now that I've beaten all of the mainline Pikmin games, it's finally time for me to decide, once and for all, which of these is my favourite Pikmin 3. It's Pikmin 3. I adore Pikmin 1 and 2 and will continue to replay them for years to come. But Pikmin 3 just has them beat, I'm sorry. It's almost difficult to put into words just how much this game means to me. So I think the best way to get all of my feelings off of my chest is to discuss it at church. The congregation did not agree with me.
This seems like a fairly uncommon opinion. Pikmin 1 is the one that started it all, and the stricter time limit offers a lot of players a more difficult and compelling experience. Pikmin 2 adds and changes so much and is really ambitious, but because of that, it's either the most loved or the most hated game in the series to most, which then just leaves Pikmin 3 as the one with the base level of quality. It's not outrageously difficult, it's not super strict, and because of that, it doesn't really impact a lot of people as much as the other games, in a good way or a bad way. With how easy this game is, some people just breeze through it and forget about it. But if you take the time to allow yourself to be truly immersed in its world and the nuanced refinements to the gameplay, you'll almost definitely find it to be the most consistently enjoyable Pikmin experience. But nobody did that and would rather bitch about Pikmin 2!
But do I care what other people think? No, because I bought each of these games twice anyway. And besides, I finally perfected my soup recipe. Okay. I think I know what went wrong. It was the secret ingredient again. I'm not even gonna say it's bad, I just wouldn't put it in soup.